Coaster Kings Radio.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode 2 of the Coaster Kings Radio podcast. This time around we're doing a little bit more of a formulaic show today. We're going to talk about some of the newest coasters coming to the United States, Asia, Europe, Canada. And before we dive into that, we're going to talk about some of the parks we visited this month. Alex and I went down to California for a couple of days.
For a family reunion.
A family reunion at Disneyland. Lots of little kids. Always fun.
It was at Disneyland because my family is amazing.
And we did character dining, so I guess the fun part was that we got to eat unlimited food and have Chip and Dale all up in my grill while I'm trying to eat. Every time I was trying to eat pizza, they were behind me. So that was, I guess, kind of fun.
Amazing. The kids really liked it.
And on that trip, we also went to Knott's, where they're currently building Calico River Rapids, the refreshed version of the old Bigfoot Rapids.
They're going to start building it. They haven't really. It's just pink flags. And
as of right now, it's not much, but we mainly just came for Accelerator because it's running consistently.
Montezuma's Revenge.
La
Papa Loca.
And some fries.
The French fries.
Other than that,
just make me cry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. For those who don't know, Sven came to California with us a year ago, actually.
Yeah, exactly a year.
And in true Knott's Berry Farm fashion,
everything that mattered was closed.
No Accelerator, no
Montezuma, the Log Flume.
Signature launch coaster was Pony Express for the day.
Hooray!
Nick is here. Hello.
Nick is also here today.
Nick is past his bedtime. He is being a very good sport.
Nick was very good with helping us today at Busch Gardens, Tampa.
We just came from Busch Gardens, so we're really tired.
Tease.
And we also, of course, went to SeaWorld Orlando this month. They're doing Seven Seas Food Festival, which is probably the most competitive food festival in the region.
Yeah.
There's 35 different food stands.
Yeah, we did an article about, basically, I was like, this is better than the Food and Wine Festival at Epcot because it's set up with tasting cards. It's I would say the food quality is equally good, but it's set up economically, which I think makes it more fun, especially with the tasting card thing. And it's just not as crazy busy. And it's also for Floridians, Epcot will treat you the same whether you live here and you're a pass holder or if you're visiting from out of town. Whereas the Seven Seas Food Festival has a special tasting card that's just for pass holders. It's a really good value. $65 gets you 20 different menu items, and that includes sample size alcohol beverages as well as sample size meal options. So it's a really excellent value, and you can just eat your way around the park through the.
Besides they're having a lot of options, including vegan market and all sorts of different styles around the world. There's also the portions are really great. So we had 3 or 4 tastings and we were full for a day.
Every kiosk also has a signature alcohol and beverage.
And it's great because the tasting card, you can buy it. It's 20 punches. If you buy it at the beginning of the event, it's good for the whole run of the event. So you can even bring it back with you later visits. It doesn't expire at the end of the day. You don't have to feel forced to eat everything all at once.
Yeah.
So you can come back and enjoy it at your leisure.
So it started in February and it continues through the first end of May. And
yeah,
so
and we've already been 3 times. And we still haven't used all of our punches.
Through our 20 punch card, Because it's enough servings.
Yeah, that's pretty smart.
It's great. It's enough servings, and the servings are big enough that you're not going to want to necessarily blow through the punch card in one day, or even 2 days, unless you've got a large group.
And of course, we made some surprise visits to Walt Disney World, as we like to do.
Yeah.
One of our biggest achievements was the other day there was a Flight of Passage Fast Pass Plus laying around, and we picked it up.
Yeah.
And
we just sit on the Disney app and refresh for 15 minutes, and we just found them, and we're like, I guess we're going to Animal Kingdom tomorrow because we found these Flight of Passage.
Best way to start your day is Flight of Sausage or Passage.
I call it. That's my nickname for the ride for no reason.
So how does that work? Did you digitally?
Yeah.
Find
so
it,
how Fast Pass Plus works, for those who don't know, is that Fast Pass Plus is a reservation system. So people staying on resort can book Fast Passes as early as 90 days before their visit. Depending on the tier of hotel and the region around it, it kind of creeps up to their date. Pass holders have a 30-day minimum, but we don't know 30 days in advance if we're going.
Even then, by 30 days in advance, all of the good stuff is gone.
So all the good stuff is usually gone.
Yeah. People who are planning these trips several months out and staying at the nice hotels get first dibs on stuff like Flight of Passage and Slinky Dog and Frozen and the other really popular Fast Pass rides. But
if you're lucky,
plans change. Yeah.
if you're lucky and like you refresh the app plenty of times, there's people who are canceling reservations to kind of switch them around or use it for a later hour. And then sometimes out of nowhere, one of these rare e-ticket attractions becomes available last minute. And as long as you book it right in that window without refreshing, you're guaranteed to get that FastPass Plus from Disney. So if you spend a good dedicated 15 minutes, 20 minutes on refreshing your app nonstop, then you just get lucky and get yourself a passage.
It's a fun thing to do while you're at work when you just play refresh game until you get fast passes.
And Nick, any parks you've been to lately?
Yeah, I mean, we've been going to Seven Seas Food Festival as well, seeing some of the concerts. We saw The Fray in concert earlier in February. That was great. We saw Flo Rida last weekend, so that was enjoyable. We've been making several visits to Fun Spot. We love the Fun Spot parks around here. It's a great little hangout at the end of the day. They're open late every night, so you can just pop in for some coaster rides. They got cheap beer. It's a lot of fun.
It's the after party for your 8 and 7 o'clock p.m. closures for the major.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah,
It's like you come here for Universal Orlando and Disney, and you stay for Fun Spot.
Yeah, parks don't close terribly late compared to California. Like Disneyland Resort will close at like 11 p.m. on a random Tuesday in February, but the
routinely
parks
closes
at Walt
at
Disney
midnight.
World close quite early compared to that. It's much more of a resort than Disneyland is.
Because they want people to go to like Disney Springs and things like that.
Spend money elsewhere.
But people will go to Fun Spot at 11 p.m. to go see Bumper the cat, who is the resident feline that lives at Fun Spot in Kissimmee, and she's amazing, and everyone should go visit her. She lives underneath the flyers. For those of you wondering, she's very well taken care of. Everyone at Fun Spot loves her.
We once ruined Fun Spot's attempt of getting her into a cage to bring her to the vet because we were too busy trying to get her attention.
So we were fawning over her, and we were accidentally luring her out of her cage that she needed to be in so that they could catch her and bring her to the vet to make sure that she was nice and healthy.
So Nick, Sven, in your cold, wintry Europe, what are we finding theme park and wise? Did you do anything last month?
Well, in February there aren't a lot of theme parks open anymore. Basically, there's always Disneyland Paris and Efteling. And I also saw that Blackpool was open in February and that it was a very, very, very busy day. But luckily I was not there. Instead, say that again?
Wait, did you say Blackpool Pleasure Beach?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yes, they have
I
an
didn't know that they were
opening.
open.
Yeah, they have an opening in February, and basically everything was supposed to be open.
I have heard of that before because like they do that. They do like February for 2 weeks at like Alton Towers and stuff too. I think
Exactly. Yeah, I think they have a kind of holiday there. Sorry, UK people, if I get it wrong, but so it was very busy because it was a very sunny day. We've had some pretty warm days, like. It was 18 degrees Celsius last week, which is very exceptional here in winter. But anyway, beginning of February, I went to Disneyland Paris. On one hand, we had The Legends of the Force going on in the Walt Disney Studios. So everything about Star Wars, with the highlight at the end of the day, which is the Star Wars Galactic Celebration on the Tower of Terror, which is full in scaffolding, by the way, because they still need to repair the facade. And then in the regular park, so in Disneyland Park, they have the Pirates and Princess Festival going on. So that's the same event that you guys saw last time.
Yeah, that rings a bell. They do that every spring.
I think they moved it from like April to like February this year, right?
Exactly, yeah. So they have two events going
some crowds
on.
In on those days.
Yeah, because now the next event coming up will be Marvel, which also moved from summer to spring, and then in summer they will have the the Lion King and Rhythm of the Jungle Festival, or just Lion King and Jungle Festival, of course to celebrate the release of the live-action Lion King movie.
Is the Marvel thing in coincidence with the hotel? What's the status on the Marvel Hotel? Is it open?
So I passed by the hotel and it only closed like recently. So it's a project for 2020. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But they also
yeah.
confirmed the closure date for Rock and Roller Coaster, which will be September 2nd.
Yeah, okay.
And
Yeah, so for anyone
Sorry?
that's not familiar, so the New York Hotel, one of the 7 on-site resorts at Disneyland Paris, is just recently closed now for its transformation into the Marvel Hotel. And then the Rock and Roller Coaster featuring Aerosmith, which is similar to the one at Walt Disney World in Orlando, is, what did you say? It's closing in
September.
September.
So beginning of September.
And it's being transformed into an Iron Man roller coaster experience, which sounds amazing.
And speaking of things that are closed, I'm hearing the Phantom Manor is still closed. Is that correct?
Still closed.
Yes.
Still
So
closed.
when I was there were quite some rides closed, which is normal because of the low season. In the studios, there were only 2 restaurants open, but they also still have the Gourmand the Gourmand Street open, which is a winter event, and it's inspired by the Food and Wine Festival that they have little stands from France with all kinds of treats. So luckily they still had that. But beside the restaurants, also Crush's Coaster was closed still.
Everything's closed a
Armageddon,
lot.
not yet, but that's coming up as well. Toy Story Playland was open. And then, I think... Oh, yeah, and the Art of Disney Animation. That was the one I was looking for. That's been closed permanently. So we're waiting for news about what it's going to be. But the chances are that it's going to be like a preview center for the big expansion coming to the Walt Disney Studios.
That makes sense.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
It's almost like getting a third gate, like similar to or like gate the 2.5.
Well,
I
gate.
feel like the park went from being an additional area to actually being an additional park, which is, I guess, what it always was meant to be.
Exactly. Yeah. Now the studios, especially with all the scaffolding, it's back to not being a second gate, but once everything will be ready, it will be just like Disney's California Adventure. It will be finally a park worth visiting,
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be an exciting
Yeah.
transformation.
It took California Adventure some time to get there, but it was worth it. It was worth the
It took
wait.
us even longer.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Oh, Paris.
Oh, Paris. Always getting there last.
And we also stayed at Village Nature. So I don't know if you know about that, guys, but there is a chain in Europe called Center Parks. And basically these are little homes where you can sleep for a weekend, a midweek, a week. And it also has a subtropical pool next to it, always indoor. So this one, Village Nature, is a cooperation between Center Parks and Disney. So it's pretty large, and you really feel that. It doesn't have the nature aspect yet, like the other Center Parks, because that's what it's all about. It's like you you stay in the middle of nature. And have all kind of activities also besides the subtropical pool. But this one is like the XL version, and the pool has 7 slides, where usually they only have 2 or 3.
It's pretty big, yeah.
And it's interesting
really
that
fancy, like Airbnb kind of thing.
you're comparing it with an Airbnb.
Maybe.
It's more
Or
like a
like-
vacation park. So
Yeah,
little,
it's more like a
little
vacation
homes.
park, exactly. And so they have this promenade with shops. They have the Aquadome, Aqua Lagoon actually, and you can
It's
walk
like a little resort.
up. Yeah, it's more like a little enclosed village where there are
It's
all
very European.
yeah, there are all apartments all over. There are playgrounds. There's a farm. So lots of things to do. And I really enjoyed staying there. So it's definitely something else compared to the the Disney hotels. Because the first night we stayed at Santa Fe, and the bed was so bad. Like, my back hurt the day after. I was pretty disappointed in the hotel experience by Disney.
We stayed at in 2015, we stayed at the Sequoia, which is like the mid-tier,
Yeah.
one of the mid-tier hotels. And we needed like the Santa Fe and the Cheyenne were like the lowest, like
Exactly.
Disney's all-star music resort equivalent of
Yeah.
Disneyland Paris.
But they were pretty cheap as well because I booked them on Booking, as I had my annual pass. So I think we paid like €80 for the room, so $100
That's pretty good.
for one night. So,
That's not bad.
That's not bad.
and then my other theme park visit was to Bobby Island, even though it's not open. But thanks to pretparken.be, I was able to attend the press event for Fury, which was revealed that day. So
So tell
maybe
us a
we
little more about Fury. What can we expect?
Yeah, so let's talk about the new coasters. And Fury is a brand new Gerstlauer coaster. It will be part of the Land of Legends. And the Land of Legends is basically the area around the existing Typhoon and Sledgehammer attraction. So the Typhoon
The
is
Typhoon
also...
is a, yeah.
Yeah, it's a
early
Gerstlauer
Eurofighter
Eurofighter. Yeah, it's not the first though, but one of the earlier ones. Yeah, and the Sledgehammer is a Huss giant frisbee, which is pretty rare for the area.
For Europe.
And so the challenge they had was, how do we incorporate this new coaster with the other existing rides? And together with an external firm, they came up with the Land of Legends, and it's all about the 4 elements. So there will be a water area with fountains as the attraction, so that at least the kids also have something, because the other 3 rides are pretty big. Typhoon will be the wind area, obviously. And each area will have a kind of challenge. Like in the story, there's a character that needs to be defeated. For Typhoon, it will be a witch. And then if we move over to the Sledgehammer, that will be the Earth theme, where they will have giants. And finally, there's Fury with a dragon, so it's all about fire. And Fury will be almost 2,000 feet long. Am I saying that correctly?
Probably. It looks about
Yeah,
right.
it's 600 meters, so...
It's one of the newer full circuit partial shuttle coaster
Coasters,
concepts,
yeah.
where it's got a lot going on. It does like a shuttle. It has a back spike shuttle launch, and then a pretty lengthy middle section of top hats and inversions and things of that nature, and then it comes to another spike at the end, and then it's valleys, and then people, I think they either disembark there or they connect back to the initial point of embarkment and then disembark there. But the concept was really cool because it kind of looked like a really, really long shuttle coaster, but right in between the 2 spikes was a little bridge of track, bringing the cars back from one spike to the other. It's just brilliant. I love like these oddball, like 1.5 shuttle full circuit launch coaster concepts that are coming out, because not only do you get more mileage out of your track per dispatch, but they're more energy efficient. It's cheaper for parks to build a launch coaster by having these like multi-step launch processes instead of having the big singular launch that usually are not very energy efficient and can take up a lot of electricity and cost a lot of money per dispatch.
So
launch coasters seem... Sorry, go for it, son.
Well, it's so it's pretty high as well. Like it's 141 feet, which makes it the highest triple launch coaster in the Benelux, and it will have a top speed of 102 kilometers per hour. So that's like 63 miles per hour, and 4 inversions. So it will definitely be a coaster that it feels like it's going to be an infinity coaster somewhere in between, like not the big reason to go, but it's a pretty unique experience though.
I mean, for the park, it's definitely, I think, the highest value coaster by far. So I'm excited for them.
This is like the next natural step after having a ride like Typhoon. Getting the early concept Eurofighter, and now they have like roughly the same concept, but after over a decade of enhancements and adjustments and doing different things like going backwards, launches, airtime, new trains.
Yeah, it's a good evolution that Belgium is finally getting more unique and more iconic coasters, like the Netherlands is getting the last few years.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's been a good change for the market for sure.
Thank you, Netherlands.
How stagnant like some of these regions were for a little bit, and then suddenly it just exploded again. It just everything started back over. The parks kind of plateaued, I guess, there for a bit, maybe 10 years ago-ish, and we're just kind of...
I think in general, just launch coasters are making a big comeback, because I'm looking at the list of new coasters this year, and like over half of them are launch coasters. I mean, we're talking about, Tigris coming to Busch Gardens this year, which Nick will talk about for a little bit.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. Tigris coming to Busch Gardens, Tampa. I've never been on a Skyrocket 2 before, so I'm pretty excited about it. It's something unique for the area down here. There's not really one nearby. I think the closest one is Busch Gardens, Williamsburg.
Yeah, like 11-hour drive, 12-hour drive.
Yeah. So that'll be pretty cool. It's got 3 launches, 60 miles an hour, 150 feet tall. So it'll be pretty cool. They're billing it as Florida's tallest launch coaster. So that's exciting. And that's coming, later this year, this spring. They still don't have an exact date for it yet, but probably the next couple months. The train has arrived, so they had the cars on display today during their 60th celebration kickoff, where they also announced details on what's replacing Gwazi. So that was super exciting.
Very exciting.
Yeah, that's, man. So they didn't really announce specific details about it, but they did announce the 3 records it would be breaking. And so first of all, it's going to be over 200 feet tall. They didn't announce the exact height, but they did say that it would be the tallest hybrid coaster in North America. So it will be taller than Steel Vengeance.
Oh, wow.
And then...
Sorry, Cedar Point.
Yeah, sorry, Cedar Point.
But
it's all good. And they also announced that it'll be the world's steepest hybrid coaster.
91 degrees.
91 degrees is all it'll take for that, yeah. So
already terrified.
And then it'll also be the world's fastest hybrid coaster. So it's a little confusing there, where it's not going to be the world's tallest hybrid coaster, but it'll be the world's fastest hybrid coaster. Kind of an interesting set of records there, but maybe they'll digging a trench, or maybe that extra 1 degree on the drop really adds some speed to it. I don't know. So it'll be interesting to see what they announce about Zadra, because I think that's the only other RMC opening between now and Gwazi that could potentially be taller.
Yeah.
So
the world's first from the ground up Iron Horse that's coming to Energylandia in Poland.
Yeah.
Now the crazy thing to think is that Gwazi was originally roughly 100 feet high, tall, and it's going to be doubling in height. So they're building a new superstructure for it. Presumably a steel superstructure, much like Goliath at Six Flags Great America. And it was pretty wild when you ride She-Ra, currently the tallest coaster in the park of 200 feet, and you look to your side. You just cannot imagine the Gwazi plot having a tower sticking out of 200 feet. So whatever they're going to do to that, it's going to be pretty insane.
Yeah, it's going to look amazing. And it's like right smack dab in the center of that park when you walk in, so it's going to be quite a centerpiece for them. It's going to look great.
From what we're seeing with like the no limits concepts that the park released, which are very basic but enough to give us some pretty solid details. We're looking at a pretty traditional shape for the first drop, aside from the steepness of it, but a basic straight first drop, and then like a dirt turn, I guess would be the implication.
Yeah, really low to the ground,
like an I-305 looking deal, and then just a really wild first barrel roll.
Perfect for your Florida heat.
Yeah, they're going to need... I don't know where the first aid stand is at this park, but it's going to need to be at the exit of this ride, because I think the first few months it's going to be a little bit more than people might be bargaining for. I mean, this park has some really intense rides, but is it going to be a 91-degree angle, 200-foot coaster with a dirt turn? followed by a 540-degree barrel roll under the drop.
Possibly.
Like,
yeah.
I don't
That's what it
like.
looks like, yeah.
I don't know. People may come back in the station,
I'm not feeling so well.
or not feeling at all.
Yeah, I mean, I gray out in the first turn Millennium Force, so this is, yeah. if that's what ends up happening here, that's gonna
Especially
get me.
there's free beer, at this place right now. I mean, beer is always flowing. That always
The
adds
part
fun to
I'm
the mix.
excited for is that Busch Gardens Tampa is one of the most colorful parks in the U.S. Every single coaster has like a different color completely. And one color we hadn't seen yet was purple. And guess
Here
what?
it
It looks
is.
like Gwazi is going to be purple. So thanks, Busch Gardens,
And
for
the
taking off yet
superstructure
another color
might
on the
be
list.
white. The
concept calls for a white
concept calls for white
superstructure.
We don't know if that's just the default.
Doesn't
for
seem very,
the concept.
I
don't know if they're really
Jungle
going to
themed,
go through
African
the
themed, but-
painstaking labor of painting the Gwazi superstructure and all this new superstructure white per the concept. It might look a little better with the purple, but it also would kind of take away from Busch Gardens' naturalistic color palettes.
Now-
We'll see.
Now this year we're actually looking at one of the biggest new hybrid coasters, which is actually opening in 2019, which is located in Nagashima Spa Land in Japan. How do you pronounce that?
Wait,
The name of the ride?
Hakugei?
Hakugei. There you
Hybrid
go.
Coaster Hakugei is the official name in the concept. They have this concept poster released, and it's like this really wild, crazily photoshopped looking thing, and like everything
Yeah.
is overexposed and deliberately blurry.
For those of you white girls that know this wide wheel, it is going around this wide wheel as well, but it's actually themed to a
It's themed
anime.
to, from my understanding, it's themed to. I did some research on like the name because what was coming up was the literal translation is Moby Dick, and we're like okay, and so looking up like what this could possibly mean. There's an anime, like a space opera, of course, from the 90s called Hakugei, and it's not actually as a space opera would imply. Isn't about like an actual Moby Dick style adaptation on the sea, but rather space pirates who are kind of drifting about in the cosmos, harvesting supplies from abandoned megaships that are referred to in the series as great white whales or Hakugei. So
only in Japan will you be experiencing that entire pre-experience to just
it's
find out what the
basically
ride's
just the
about.
most Japanese thing conceivable, like the most Japanese thing that has ever Japanned, and we're very
Japanned.
we're very very excited for this ride. It like some people are calling it the Japanese Steel Vengeance, and I think that's just because people often call Nagashima Spa Land the Japanese Cedar Point. It's an easy association to make. That's one that we often made because it's got the giant Giga Coaster that is basically a perfect cross of Magnum XL200 and Millennium Force. Huge collection of rides, classics, modern stuff. Everything's very well maintained, very pretty. It's on the water. It doesn't not have numerous Cedar Point similarities, and now we have one more. But I don't think the ride will be much like Steel Vengeance.
It looks a little tame compared to Steel Vengeance, but it looks like the market really isn't looking for Steel Vengeance. I just don't think the Japanese are interested in it. They just got Arashi, which is an SNS free
40
spin, and that thing is
They've got that thing
absolutely
cranked up to
out of
12,
control.
man.
Like you flip like at least 8, if not like 10 times.
We were
on the
expecting
cycle.
something a little more mild because a lot of the rides in Japan are mild.
Like it's a simple layout. I did not know where I was. on
And
that
we were
ride
like,
at
okay,
all.
like we've ridden the Six Flags ones, the Jokers, and like Batman and Fiesta Texas. This thing was out for blood. Like I mean, you could pop a blood vessel in your eye riding this thing. We were just so not expecting it, just based on how gentle and meandering a lot of Japan's coasters are, and like things are pretty straightforward, and culturally people like to know what to expect. Like at Tokyo Disney Sea, the looping coaster Raging Spirits has a little marquee at the front of the ride, making it blatantly obvious that there's a loop in the ride, like a little animated looping marquee. It's like, this ride has a loop. It goes upside down. Like, we want you to know about this so that you don't freak out later when you're riding the ride and you go upside down.
And that's exactly why Hakugei will not be like Steel Vengeance.
So,
For that, you're gonna have to come to Florida.
So tell us, guys, when are you going?
So we're already kind of like planning a little spa visit to Nagashima Spa Land. Because in case you don't like roller coasters, there is a spa that's like
Like a real spot.
a real big spa and
Med
resort. that kind of splits the water park from the main theme park. So we're planning a little spa visit with the hope that the RMC is running the way it's supposed to run.
Plus
And we'll probably wait an additional year.
We really like Nagoya.
We do like Nagoya a lot.
Tokyo is like so big and fast paced and wild, and Nagoya
It's very Tokyo.
And Nagoya is just a lot more relaxed. It's more calm. We really like the vibe there. And the
Very
city
clean and
walking
safe,
around.
but you don't feel like you're rushed the entire time. So
Not
Nagoya
quite
is a great place
not
for a
quite
spa.
as frenetic as like Tokyo. Plus Nagashima Spa Land, like, we were there for a day, and we had more than enough time to do everything we wanted, but we just liked the park so much that
It's not a very big park. People think of like Fujikyu Highland or Nagashima Spa Land as these mega Japanese parks. They're like the size of a good-sized American
Very
water park.
small.
They're not very big.
Okay.
Like, they just fit everything kind of in
I should say
there.
they're space efficient.
But-
They have huge rides, but not exactly massive midway.
Yeah, like the
Networks.
Midway network is really small. You can get around. You can walk the entire circle on Nagashima Spa Land within like 10 minutes.
Like
15
Fujikyu
minutes. It's
Highland,
small.
like with the exception of Ijanika, like the major coasters, Daronpa, Fujiyama, and Takabisha, they're all right next to each other.
They're all within 1
Like-
minute walk from each other.
Like within a
If-
few
if-
paces
yeah.
of each other. They're just right there, on top of each other practically.
So do I
And,
think more like Phantasialand compact or?
So not necessarily when it comes to like having multi-levels of attractions. It is more
okay.
kind of like everything is flat and everything is pretty basic. There's not a whole lot of theming going on. Like they have some painted concrete perhaps. It's just that the midways are pretty efficient and the rides kind of like go out into like outfields, and then the midways kind of have all the entrances lined up on them, but there's no rides are really in the middle of the park. All the rides are kind of like circling around. just
Nagashima
like
Spa
center.
Land is set up almost like a city block. Like it's like a grid,
Mhm.
middle of the park that has like all the flat rides. They're just so like beautifully even. It's almost like Roller Coaster Tycoon. You look at it from like the Ferris wheel, and everything is just so evenly compartmentalized and organized. Like, and then there's a coaster kind of here or there within the midway, but most of them are out on the edges.
Yeah, even when you try to cut through coasters, there's just like parallel midways, like 3 of them crossing underneath the lift hill of Steel Dragon. It's really compartmentalized, but it makes it easy. You can just kind of walk around the park and you know where you are. There's no getting lost, which
Hakugei is located
always
towards
nice.
the back of the park, and like it has its own midway, but that was closed off to the public for the construction of the ride. But again, it's just a midway that kind of wraps around the Ferris wheel and like a majority of the other major attractions. They don't have a big presence at the park, even though it's a park that's sharing the skyline very snugly with some other major, very tall attractions, like not just Steel Dragon 2000, but their 200-foot Ferris wheel and some of the other larger tower attractions and things there. I don't have a great presence. I think it'll be a great ride. I hope it's a good fit. I hope that even like a mild RMC isn't too aggressive for...
I think I kind of like the idea of not having another RMC that's just ejector airtime.
Yeah.
Because RMCs do tend to run together with the same sort of elements over and over.
Wash, rinse, repeat.
But if you're gonna like try and make a mild RMC, I think you got yourself a unique coaster. I'm
Yeah.
excited for it.
I expect it to be very Japanese in the execution.
A
Well,
jet
let's-
coaster by RMC.
Well, let's finish up the RMC list with the European one, which is Untamed, coming to Walibi Holland. So it will be the first iBox track RMC for Europe, because the only other RMC is Wildfire. And they've been releasing videos of making of videos, teasing with the elements. And so far we know that it will be the RMC with the most inversions, which is 5. We also know that the first one will be a step-up underflip, and if I looked that up correctly, the Joker already has that.
Correct. Joker Discovery Kingdom has that.
Yeah, so
What
after
is
the
it?
drop, you have a little bunny hop, and then you go
Oh,
into that
okay.
inversion.
Yeah, so what it really is like you make almost a full inversion upward, and then you level out on the top on your way back down. So if that kind of makes sense to people, like you've already rotated about 300 degrees by the time you reach the height of the element, and then you kind of curve back down.
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
on Joker.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Which makes sense for the element now I think about
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
We really liked Robin Hood when we wrote it, right before it closed. We were there 10 months ago,
Yeah, April.
and we were like, let's get some quality rides on this, because it's about to be... It hadn't been officially announced, but we kind of knew that
Yeah.
was happening. And they were like, all right, this ride's going to be toast. There's no guarantee that it's even going to be in decent shape.
I mean, I remember having much worse days when I was younger.
It was great.
But it ran pretty good
We
this
rode
year.
it 3 times. Like, I had never been there. Sean hadn't been in a while. But we prioritized it quite a bit. Not just because it was going away, but because I really genuinely liked it. It was one of only 3 wooden coasters designed by Vekoma.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's 2 left. One of them up in Scandinavia, up in Norway, which I also rode and I think it was a great ride. It's Thunder Coaster.
They got
That one
Yeah.
has timber
Timberliners
liners now.
now.
So that one got retracked. It's got the Gravity Craft Timberliner trains on it. The last example now of the Vekoma wooden coaster rolling stock is on
Loop Garou.
Loop Garou at Wallaby, Belgium. So it's the last
Weerwolf in Dutch.
one of 2.
Weerwolf.
Yeah, Weerwolf. Yeah, it has 2 names for 2 markets. The last one of the last 2 Vekoma wooden coasters, and the only remaining example of the wooden coaster rolling
Nice.
stock from
Yeah.
Vekoma.
Yeah, it also has
So-
its rough days, but
sure.
and they will include it in a new area in the 5-year master plan for Walibi Belgium, but maybe they'll change up the station a bit. Otherwise, they will make sure that there's more viewing points as well, because there will be a road underneath the werewolf connecting it to the vampire, because now it's a little detour that you need to do. It's very much in the corner, and they want to make it one more New Orleans inspired area, also adding back the Cocosinelle, which is a very small Tivoli, right next to the Loop Garou. So it will look incredibly small next to a coaster
the
like
Vampire,
that.
for those of you who don't know, that's the Vekoma SLC. That's right at the very front of Wallaby, Belgium. Like, if you take a hard right from the entrance, if my recollection of the park from Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 is
Yes.
still
Serves
accurate.
you right.
Loop Garou is pretty much right there.
You mean Vampire?
Well, yeah, Loop Garou is right there too, isn't it? Or right,
Yes,
kind of close
yes.
to each other. But like Loop Garou is like a soft right from the entrance, and like Vampire is like a hard right. So this new Midway expansion will open up access to Vampire, which has always been one of their major attractions.
Now, when it comes to Untamed, Sven,
Mm-hmm.
for those who haven't really been following it closely, what kind of other elements have been announced so far?
I think the Step Under Flip was the last one. I know it goes back into non-inversions. I think it's a banked. It's just a banked turn, but almost 90 degrees. So and then back forward. But the other elements are still secret. So I'm supposing that with the next making of video, they will do the next bunch of reveals, because we still have 4 inversions to know about. And yeah, when the train exits the station, there's also a little banked turn up to the lift hill, which will be a total of almost 120 feet high, and the drop will be 116 feet. So it's not like the most impressive stats, but I think every European fan is super excited, because it will be only the second RMC, and for many the most accessible RMC as well.
I mean, last thing I expected from Robin Hood is to be able to pull all those elements off, because it's not a very big ride, so I'm excited for it as well.
I think it's pretty lengthy, and there's one turning point where I'm expecting a kind of Cobra roll element, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
And then next on our list will be we're gonna go back to the US for a second.
We've
Speaking
covered
of-
all of our RMC bases.
Yeah, so now we've done all of our RMC announcements. We're gonna talk about another coaster we technically don't know very much about, but we also kind of do. It's gonna be Hagrid's. Hold up, I gotta have
What's it
to. I have
called
the name
again?
correct.
Hagrid's?
Hagrid's Magical
Magical
Creatures
Creatures
Motorbike Adventure.
Okay, so it is motorbike.
Motorbike
Why?
Adventure.
Is it motorcycle?
No.
It's motorbike. Okay.
Motorbike Adventure.
Why are those names always so long?
J.K. Rowling.
I mean, like, they could have literally just been Hagrid's Motorbike Adventure. It would have been 100% fine with me. But I guess Magic Creatures are a very, very important part of the attraction. So that's why they put it in the name. So it looks like the line.
There's supposed to be a lot of like animatronics.
Yeah, it looks like this is Universal claims it's going to be their most highly themed coast experience they've ever opened, which is pretty promising.
Saying a lot.
Given that Gringotts is technically coaster, and I think it's
Yeah.
pretty good. So we're expecting a lot of physical scenes. Looks like there's going to be 5 launches, a drop track, a
2
spike,
drop tracks, like a dueling drop track.
dueling drop tracks.
1 drop track per ride, but there's 2 chambers for capacity.
You know,
Oh.
intimate, so you better have 2.
Yeah, always have a backup if it's an intimate.
And looks like we're looking at 5 launches, a pre-show or a queue that's likely going to be themed, as to what the latest rumors say, to entering Hogwarts, but going through the buildings that Forbidden Journey doesn't take you through. So you're going to do a little bit more of Hogwarts exploring, except not what you've already seen going on Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey. So as of now, nothing is really set in stone, except for the fact that it's opening on my birthday, June 13th this year. Super excited, got the date planned
Hooray.
off just to go right there. What? So other than the opening being really soon, and they have been pretty
Hopefully
quiet
it
about the
actually
ride.
runs.
They've already been testing it,
Like,
so
happy birthday to you, the ride's down.
happy birthday to you. Yeah. I mean, it is intimate after all. I'm
Yeah.
going in with expectations. So we're excited for that. That's coming to Orlando, as well as, of course, Guardians of the Galaxy opening next year. We know even less about that. I don't
Yeah.
think we know anything about that.
They've been
besides,
keeping it secret. Disney's done a pretty good job of keeping details secret.
I mean, it's a giant show
there's-
building. It's pretty
yeah,
much as big as Spaceship Earth.
The show building is ridiculous. It is so huge. I mean, it's about as big as Disney has ever built show building.
Like, it is big.
Pirates of the Caribbean Shanghai sized show building. They said it's going to be their longest coaster.
Longest indoor coaster in the world.
Yeah.
And what we do know at this point is it's going to be Vekoma,
Vekoma.
obviously. And then they're going to use special designed MK1212 trains, the lovely vest restraints.
And they spin.
And they're going to be spinning, controlled and uncontrolled.
Yeah. So it's a next generation launched spinning coaster. They're going to cover all their bases here because they've got the launched family coaster, Slinky Dog, launched looping coaster in the dark, rock and roller coaster. We got a launched spinning coaster, Guardians of the Galaxy, and then we're going to have our launched motorcycle coaster.
Motorcycle coaster, which is definitely the reason Hagrid's
Tron
Magic
Motorcycle
Creatures
Power
is
Run.
happening.
Yeah. We feel like Hagrid's motorbike coaster is sort of a preemptive strike against Tron because everybody is familiar with, everyone in the industry, I should say, is pretty familiar with what Disney accomplished with Tron Lightcycle Power Run in Shanghai. And so it's pretty much the balls in everyone of the park's court to try to get on top of the incredible marketing prowess that thing will bring.
And I think that maybe people aren't expecting it, but I really think that the focus of Guardians will be a lot more of a thrill focus, as where Tron will never be the thrill coaster people expect it to be. It'll always be about, the scenicness, the scenes, the visuals,
The aesthetic.
the aesthetic. So Tron will definitely be what it looks like right now, the more family-friendly attraction. But we are getting a little bit of a change in Tron, and it looks like, from the latest I've seen and heard, is that our entry, so right after the first launch on Tron Lightcycle Power Run, would actually be a different kind of curve than we're seeing in Shanghai. And that's because apparently there's not enough space to put in the big overbank turn and S-turn. So it looks like they're going to go a little bit higher up and make more of an S-turn in the beginning. So we'll see some more important changes.
So it's not.
Then-
It's looking less and less like a perfect clone. Of
It is
the
definitely not
Shanghai
going to be
ride.
perfect clone, not queue-wise, but also track-wise.
Yeah.
Looks like there's a few differences as far as we know now. So we're excited for that.
It's
There's
just an
lots
exciting-
going on in
this
this
kinda
market.
This kind of plays to what we were talking about how like launch coasters were not just a flash in the pan. It's not about parks building their designated launch coaster and having their launch coaster, and this is it. This is their
Launch coasters
coaster.
are launches are replacing lift hills.
Now,
I'm here for
yeah,
it.
now it's like, well, you have to have this kind of launch coaster and that kind of launch coaster. But
Mm-hmm.
launch coasters do not overlap when it comes to marketing anymore. It's not about just having the launch coaster. It's about, this is a shuttle launch coaster. This is a launch coaster where you sit like this. This launch coaster spins. This one goes upside down. Disney has learned that it's a lot easier to tell a story with a ride that just takes off with no delay than it is to tell a story with a roller coaster that has a traditional lift hill.
In addition, we were even seeing changes to like newer concepts of launch coasters. Hagrid's magical creature motorbike adventure isn't going to be just.
I have it pulled up on the
I
laptop.
have it over
so
here
that
so I can
we
read
remind
it.
ourselves the whole name.
So like it's not just gonna have motorcycle kind of seating; it's also gonna have regular seats. So it's combining all of it. It's
Yeah, it's
doing,
got a little,
it's doing
like,
everything you
got
could possibly
that-
do,
that
including seating positions.
Sidecar,
Yep,
which
the little
is so
sidecar.
smart.
I'm excited for that. That'll be my first thing.
I'll be in the sidecar,
Oh,
honestly.
really? I'll be in the sidecar. Not for real.
No.
You can switch.
Because honestly, I love the motorcycle coasters. Like Tron is way better and way more comfortable than like most of the motorcycle coasters. But those are rough on your glutes and your hamstrings. You get sore riding on those things on like your inner legs. And I'm like, oh, I just want to sit normal. Like I want to ride this roller coaster and enjoy it sitting down on my butt with a lap bar like a normal person.
Well, that you can do on Maxx Force.
Maxx Force.
And what is Maxx Force?
Nice transition.
Like? I like that.
I still had a question though. What do you
Oh,
think
for
will
it.
be better, Hagrid's
Guardians
or no Hagrid's or Tron?
Oh.
Oh my God, Sven, don't do this to me.
Tron is
Okay.
our favorite thing in the world.
So
Tron,
we love Tron to death, but we have a personal attachment to Tron.
Yeah.
I think that Tron is very short. Like Tron is very visual, very amazing pre-show. But Universal has really proven themselves that with the Harry Potter franchise, they've been able to pull off Disney level, if not higher level, of commitment to theming and experience. So as of right now,
It's
I'm
a
going to
toss-up,
say that
I
overall,
think.
I wouldn't be surprised if Hagrid's turns out to be the better overall experience.
Objectively.
Objectively.
I think we'll always
Not
love
for me
Tron
personally,
more.
but objectively, yes.
Tron will always be like our family crest. It's all over our apartment. It's our favorite
Black and blue.
ride. Like we love this ride so much.
But subjectively, I think
But,
that
yeah.
Hagrid's
We're not
will
gonna
likely be the better overall
pretend if
concept.
Hagrid's is like objectively a better ride. Like we're not gonna pretend that Tron is just better just because we love it. Like
Mm-hmm.
we want to be,
Honest.
transparent
Yeah.
and have critical analysis that is separate from our emotional attachments of things.
I mean, Hagrid's looks really good already. Like, I'm
Oh,
really
yeah.
stoked for it. Everyone
Mhm.
who doesn't like it because of dragons, I'm sorry, get over it. But I'm really, really excited for
Yeah.
Hagrid's.
People are still people. I know, okay, like I get it. Like there's valid reasons to be sad, but like okay, let's talk about. It's not Hagrid's coaster's fault that Dueling Dragons is gone. Let's not
Mhm.
slight the coaster for something that it didn't do. It's not the coaster's fault. So let's enjoy it for what it is, and I think it's going to be great. I think it'll end up. What I'm not uncertain about is I think it'll be the best of the Harry Potter attractions. Period.
Hmm.
What do you think, Nick?
I mean,
You opened Forbidden Journey. You have
Forbidden
an
Journey's
opinion.
got a special place in my heart. That it's an amazing ride system. It's a crazy ride. It does so much all in one package. It's gonna be hard to beat that with a roller coaster. I know it's gonna have show scenes. I know it's
Well,
gonna
it'll
do
be
all
easy to
kinds
beat
of.
it because it's a roller coaster instead of a whatever.
I mean, that's
Harry
where opinions
Potter.
differ.
It's a coaster.
Yeah. It'll be cool for sure. I'm very excited for it. I can't wait to see what it's all about when it opens.
And so now we will transition
Okay,
into
now we
our
can talk
next
about
launch
Maxx
coaster
Force.
because
Okay.
we have a list of launch coasters.
We're very excited. Maxx Force, honest to God, Maxx Force is the 2019 attraction that I'm by far the most excited about, realistically, because the SNS Power launch coasters are, I think we may have talked about this a little bit in the last podcast about just how like they were way ahead of their time. King's Dominion, obviously, they went for it, and Hypersonic XLC tripped and fell on its face. Lasted 6 years, came and went. Pretty short little speed bump on the timeline of this park. I think people will forever remember the unceremonious departure of Volcano more than they'll remember
Too soon.
the
Too
Hypersonic XLC saga at that park. But I digress. The SNS launch coasters making their way back to the Western Hemisphere is so exciting because for anyone who's been fortunate enough to ride an SNS launch coaster, Powder Keg at Silver Dollar City is such an amazing ride. Even though it's a family coaster, like that thing has pep to it. The launches on compressed air coasters are so inherently different than like a pneumatic launch, like a hydraulic launch, because a vast majority of your acceleration happens at the beginning of the launch sequence as opposed to being built up steadily as the launch occurs. It doesn't sound like it would make that much of a difference, but when you're riding it and you feel like your chest cavity is going to implode because the acceleration is so aggressive, like that, it makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
We
It
were
just feels like a big bang on your chest. And
yeah.
you're like, well,
when we
damn.
rode Doldorampa at Fuji-Q, I was a little disappointed. I was expecting the launch to feel a little more intense we have theories that maybe the ride has been altered to go slower since it reopened in 2018 with the
new
vertical loop.
Yeah.
And our reasoning for that is because the ride has no operational need to achieve 111 miles per hour. It hits that mark and then immediately hits brakes anyway. So we think that maybe once they opened it, once the fanfare died down, there's just no need for them to have to maintain that launch power. Because based on our ride on Dolgodampa, I feel like the launch on like Accelerator at Knott's Berry Farm is just as good, if not better. And the launch on the compressed air coaster in South China at Happy Valley in Shenzhen, which I was fortunate enough to ride in 2015, that is still the best launch I've ever been on. That was so intense that like my peripheral vision just completely crapped out. Like I have no visual recollection of the launch on that ride. I rode it twice. It was like we were on the launch track and then like silver gray tunnel vision blur and we're at the top of the 200-foot top hat both times. I don't actually remember taking off.
Now the thing I'm most excited for Maxx Force isn't just the launch, it's actually the fact that I feel like usually launch coasters that are so solely focused on the launch being the main experience, they kind of lack everything else, like the Dolgodampa in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Now the great thing about Maxx Force is they pack in 5 inversions in a super short track.
It's a full
So it's gonna
ride.
do full coast elements. It's gonna have the world's fastest inversion. It's gonna launch to 78 miles per hour in just 2 seconds, and it's gonna have a little tiny airtime hill before entering the first 2 inversions. So overall, like I'm excited for the launch, sure, but the launch will be like literally 2 seconds.
This thing is just, I mean,
But the
whole
entire ride does a whole lot
concept,
more.
It's just bonkers. Like I'm so glad they're really going for it because I think this attraction, it could either go really, really well and could be like a top tier coaster for the whole continent, or it could be a total disaster. Like
You never
either
know
on an
with this
operational
airline,
level
yeah.
or a rider comfort level. Like it's really hard to know when you do something with a design that's this dramatically unfamiliar and uncommon based on things that already exist. There was not. This isn't, even though the closest thing we have to compare this to is like the ones in China, like the one that I rode. The ones in China still have a nice launch and a 200-foot top hat, and then the rest of the ride kind of operates like a small hypercoaster. You got 3 or 4 nice hills. You've got an overbank turn, nice laterals, nice negative G's, helix at the end, and it's over. Still like an amazing launch concept, a very simple but effective design, and the ride's over. This thing would have an unorthodox layout even if it wasn't a launch coaster. If you tap
Every
the-
single element it's doing is actually a new element.
yeah, like this, everything is just, they've completely rewritten the elements on this thing. If you had just tacked a lift hill onto this thing and sent it off where the lift hill would be, or where the launch would be, it would still be like just a wildly outlandish concept. So they're really, really going for it. Like this is a ballsy move for them. It feels a lot like the kind of stuff Six Flags was doing 20 years ago. Really ambitious, like power moves.
It's like it's 1999 again.
Yeah, it's 1999 all over again. That's kind of the theme of this year, we've decided.
And another great thing about the fact that this Chicago-based or Milwaukee-ish based new roller coaster is actually already like halfway done with construction, while West Coast Racers hasn't even started yet.
Yeah.
So,
While
congrats
Maxx Force has been,
Circus
even
Green
though
Magic
Chicago
event.
was like a wind chill of negative 50 degrees, a few weeks ago. I mean, Chicago's having one of the coldest winters on record. They still appear to be building that ride on track, and lovely Southern California weather is no match for the operational sluggishness of the contractor team responsible for West Coast Racers.
But before we get into details of West Coast Racers, there's a launch coaster in Europe opening. Taiga, is that correct?
That
Is
is
that a rapper?
correct.
Did I pronounce it right? Yeah.
Taiga?
Taiga.
I think it's
Definitely
Taiga,
a
yeah.
rapper.
At Linnanmäki.
Okay.
Not sure if that is correct, though.
Linnanmäki. Yeah, I love that park.
Linnanmäki.
Linnanmäki in Helsinki,
Yes.
Too many E's.
on the mountaintop, a little hilltop park. Every coaster there is like 1,000
That's
feet
a
long.
small park.
It's a very compact park. It's super cute. Interesting collection of rides. I think this new one is going to be their best one.
Yeah, it really looks like an iconic ride. It makes me think of like a combination of Taron on one hand and Blue Fire at Europa Park on the other hand.
That sounds amazing.
And so, Taiga is like, it's one of the few Intamed projects going on, right? Like this
Well,
is the year
Well, there's
that
a lot of Asia
Yeah.
Intamin, and there is obviously Hagrid.
Hagrid.
But yeah, Intamin isn't in the spotlight
Yeah.
that much right now.
Right now, it's a lot of Vekoma and a lot of Mac.
yeah, I feel like
And a
this
lot
is
of
the year
Gersauer.
for alternative let between brackets alternative constructors, because
Yeah.
the major coasters in America also aren't B&M or Intamin, but so it's an interesting year to see what those manufacturers can come up with.
Yeah, stuff
But
like
here
SNS and Premier.
exactly, but here so Taiga launch coaster, it starts with the first launch, which will take it up to a 0G winder. And then after a few turns, it already goes into the second launch with a top hat with outside banking. And then it also has a dive loop. It will have an Immelman and an inline twist, so a total of 4 inversions. It looks... I like coasters that are compact but have intense elements, so this seems like that will be exactly the case. And it does also have some extra airtime moments, like a little bunny hop as well. So I'm planning my trip to Helsinki soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the layout looks really long for what I could have ever imagined for the park.
For that park.
So this must be their biggest capital
Because
investment.
everything, I mean, they've got a small Intamin Zaxbin, like the little one. They've got a Mauer Manufacturing X-Car coaster. I mean, both of these coasters are less than 1,000 feet. They've got an indoor coaster, like a little Space Mountain Tech thing that's also quite short. And then a couple of other oddball, like small steel coasters. So this is a great move for them. It's replacing another very short coaster, a Premier Rides liquid coaster, which was their Premier's ill-fated water coaster concept, which was also built at Silver Dollar City and was replaced with the SNS Powder Keg. I was surprised that the one in Finland lasted as long as it did, considering the one at Silver Dollar City had so many problems. I think this new ride is really going to be an impressive coaster, not just for the parks lineup, but for the country.
And I think that, I mean, it's great Intamin's doing more launch coasters, and I think in some cases I do prefer the launch coasters. But it looks like, as of right now, NAC is doing the big business. We're having Copperhead Strike open. What day is opening, Nick?
I believe it's March 22nd. That's opening. It's coming up soon.
In like 3 weeks.
So
Yeah,
early.
3 weeks opening.
That's so
Nick's
exciting.
gonna go. He's gonna go. He's gonna be the first to ride it from all of us.
Nick will be the first person ever.
Nice.
But I'll be up there in early
Ever.
April to take a look at that. I'm pretty excited. That ride looks great, actually. Joe's rolling right out of the station. That should be fun. First launch is only 42 miles an hour, so the testing videos right now, like the internet's freaking out. It's like, oh, it looks so slow.
It does look slow.
But
Copperhead
I mean,
slug.
it might give you some cool hang time in that loop. And that second launch with it's not just like a straight launch. Well, it's a straight launch, but
Wavy launch.
it's on a hill. Like you go up and down a bit, and then into that inverted top hat. So real excited to check that one out. I'm real excited to get back to Carowinds. Fury 325. It's a great ride. Afterburn's a lot of fun. So
It's okay.
I think if we'll go into Copperhead Strike with the right expectations, not like over expecting, you get a really
Yeah.
good ride out of it.
yeah,
I think it'll be
'Cause-
much like Star Trek in Germany, where it's gonna be not very airtime focused, not very intense, but if you go in with right expectations, lovely ride.
Exactly, because
A lot of
most
people on the
Mac
internet have,
launch
like-
coasters
Oh, go ahead.
aren't like that intense. The launch is it's exactly what you explained with the Donpa. The acceleration per second isn't that fast, so that's why in Blue Fire it's not too bad. You need to get used to it a little bit, but that was one of also my thoughts on Icon at Blackpool. It just didn't pack the punch that I wanted it to have. So exactly that expectation you shouldn't have for Copperhead Strike neither as well.
I think people have like declared it, or they've decided that we're getting the American Helix at Leesburg, and I'm like, no, guys, like lower.
no.
Okay, Copperhead Strike's going to be great in its own right. It's not going to be.
I'm just
huge.
excited that it's going to have 2 vertical loops because I feel like vertical loops are easily discounted for nowadays. No one wants to put a vertical
And they're
loop
perfectly.
anymore.
They're almost perfectly
But
circular.
these are nice
They're
little
really
circular
intense.
vertical loops. Those are my favorite
Mhm.
parts, I think.
And it's a really nice homage to the White Lightning Schwarzkopf shuttle loop that used to be there. It's actually the first launch and loop is taken directly from that Schwarzkopf shuttle loop concept as like a little homage to one of the park's original
nice.
thrill rides. And that was obviously, this was 1977, I believe, when they built that one, and that was really early in the launch coaster timeline there. And the coaster, they lost it in the late 80s, and they never did get another launch coaster back until now. It's been 3 decades since they've had a launch coaster, so it's very exciting for them.
And kudos to Cedar Fair for having the ride finished like early. The ride was finished late last year. It
Yeah, it's
has
already
been
done.
testing. It is opening in a couple weeks. And it's not just Copperhead Strike, it's also Yukon Striker in Canada's Wonderland, another Cedar Fair property. That ride is pretty much completed. They are planning an opening, I believe, in May as the park's opening this year. So what exactly are we looking at when it comes to Yukon Striker?
So, I'm not the biggest fan of dive coasters, but this one does look pretty interesting. It's doing a couple new things. It's got the tallest drop. It's not the tallest dive coaster, but it does have the tallest drop as it goes through the lagoon and in between vortex. Yeah, they're aero suspended coasters, so that looks really cool. And did I mention the vertical loop already?
No,
you did
No.
not.
So yeah, it's got a
It's a year before the
vertical
loops,
loop.
I guess.
finally, Roller Coaster Tycoon is accurate.
Yeah,
For over
vertical loop on
for
a dive
20
coaster.
years, you've been able to put a vertical loop on a dive coaster or Roller Coaster Tycoon, and now it finally.
Many said it would never happen, but
Yeah,
here we are.
Here we are.
Here we are. with
I'm
that
really
vertical
curious
loop
what
on
it's
a
going to
coaster.
look like.
Yeah, and it's got a cool layout because it's almost kind of like an out and back where it goes down to the loop and makes the loop back around.
That vertical loop is like supposedly an homage to Skyrider, the stand-up coaster from Togo.
Cedar Fair.
Yeah.
Cedar Fair is all about these little hints. I mean, that's like when they built Hang Time, they're like, okay, this element is related to Corkscrew, and this
They
element
literally put a
is the
corkscrew,
boomerang.
a
and-
hammerhead, and a cobra roll, all because of previous
all
rides
because of
and
previous
by the
attractions.
plots
Cedar
of
Fair
Hang
has gotten, they've really doubled down on the nostalgia factor. So everything that is old is new again. Everything that is new is paying respects and careful nods and subtle hints to the way things in the past, previous attractions, major marquee attractions. The Skyrider stand-up coaster was the first ride that Canada's Wonderland, the first coaster that Canada's Wonderland ever retired. After building 17 coasters, this was the first one that they actually closed, and now it's operating happily in Italy, oddly enough.
Yes.
But people were sad. People in Canada were sad that Canada's Wonderland had now finally retired a coaster after all this time. So to ease the burn, they have added a little Skyrider portion
It was-
to the new coaster.
It was funny. There was a local Belgian news site that posted a video about Yukon Striker, and they said it to be the tallest coaster in the world. And so you had Facebook exploding with people
Close.
Great.
saying, "No, it's dive." And, but I'm excited to ride
Just a
it
few
in
words,
July.
Yeah.
Oh, look at you. You're going to be the first
You're
to give us the ride.
gonna be the first one of us to ride it.
Damn, Sven.
Uh-huh.
You're nearby.
Unless Nick sneaks up there without telling us.
No Canada plans this year.
No.
Thank
and
you
Cedar
to my
Fair's the only one
Canadian
working with
family.
Mac this year. We also have Dynamite in Germany coming up, which I'm really excited for. This
No one
little
is
Mac
talking
Big
about this
Dipper.
coaster, and I'm literally, this is my second most excited coaster after Maxx Force, is this little Mac Big Dipper custom coaster coming to Freizeitpark Plön in Germany, which I visited in 2013.
It's going to be like a specialer version of Lost Gravity, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's going to be much taller,
It's
actually.
only the second installation from the Big Dipper product line.
It's
Lost
like
Gravity being the
144
first.
feet tall. That's tall.
It's a big ride. I mean, it's a height. It's got big, impressive moments.
Underground Airtime Hill, secret.
Yeah. You come off the
Another tiny little
the
loop.
dive loop drop, and then it's got that tight little circular-esque vertical loop. Amazing airtime moments, both of the lateral trick-tracky variety and
Those are
conventional kidney-busting airtime mini hops.
I don't want to speak for Sven, but I think we all like Lost Gravity quite a bit. I was really impressed
Oh,
with
yeah.
it. I really liked the ride.
I thought Lost
And
Gravity.
I think it's one of
Yeah, I
those
love
it.
coasters out there.
I went into Wallaby Holland my first time expecting to like Goliath the best by far, and like Lost Gravity just came in and like was like, nope, I'm the best coaster here. Like, just completely upended my expectations. So maybe Lost Gravity, my love for Lost Gravity and the excitement that I had for that ride and riding it and realizing how great it was, maybe my expectations for the one at Forest Park Plum might be a little high.
But the one at Cyberplane is fast and taller, which Lost Gravity does do a lot with its height, and it takes advantage of it, and it does a lot with the speed.
Also, this ride has like no break in it at all.
No, yeah,
Lost
no
Gravity has
mid-course,
that
nothing.
nice
Yeah.
intermission mid-ride,
Mhm.
mid-course break, nice little flat turnaround, and then, you know, the chaos reconvenes. Dynamite, it just tears it up. You come off that drop, and it just
Doesn't it?
continues at a breakneck pace.
It's not very It's not very long, but
Right.
everything it does looks like
Short,
it's going to be doing
sweet.
pretty well.
I'm hoping that it will invoke recollections of other aggressive, short, sweet rides that I love, like Lightning Rod or like the compressed air launch coasters in China, which demonstrate that you really don't have to have a long ride to have an impressive ride. You just have to build a ride that fulfills its maximum potential.
Are you going to ride it this year,
Yeah.
Sven?
Well, the downside about that park is that it's a bit far off in Germany, so
Oh yeah, it's in the middle of nowhere.
yeah, so I don't think so. And also, for me, it does look a bit short, though. I understand what you're saying, that it doesn't need to be the longest ride as long as it's iconic, but
We could be totally wrong. It would kind of suck to plan a trip out there, go all that way, and the
Yeah.
wooden coaster there was great. Their GCI El
Yeah.
Toro was fabulous. But if you were going all that way for this coaster, hoping for it to be something, and our predictions were wrong, that would be
Yeah, if
unfortunate.
anything, Lost Gravity was the perfect first installment of the Mac Big Dipper collection, which makes you really hope for the second installment as well.
So,
It's
yeah,
interesting
it-
how people from America tend to be a lot more enthusiastic about Lost Gravity than the people in Europe.
Interesting. People
yeah,
here, a lot of people I spoke to here just don't seem to care much. I'm like, well, you're wrong.
That's how we do. Maybe we just caught it on a really good day. I don't know, but I was like, I don't know.
It's pretty
Well,
good,
some likes
though.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
It
special
felt-
line
me,
for
it
Mac.
felt RMC-like, but more interesting. If I
It's
can
just quirky, it's
comfortably
different. I
get
feel
away with
like
saying that.
we're all
That's
kind of used to the
weird.
Gerstlauer
Yeah.
Eurofighters now, and all of a sudden Mac comes in, and that's pretty much it comes up with the same concept, but does it so differently, and I loved
It's
it.
like the Eurofighter concept, but with like improved versions of Sky Rush's trains,
Yes.
but like little miniature versions, and then like this RMC level of
Airtime
design,
and elements.
confidence, and
Inversions,
the wild banking choices and the transitions and stuff. There's a really nice mix of like a lot of the great things that are happening in modern coaster design, all in a very convenient package. I'm chomping at the bit for a park to actually build one in the U.S. Like, I would love to go to Forest Park and ride Dynamite, but what I really want is just a Lost Gravity clone somewhere in the U.S. Like, that's probably not going to happen.
Leave Lost Gravity alone.
I want it so bad.
I mean,
Yeah.
I guess technically, I just realized that I thought Lost Gravity was a production model. I guess Lost Gravity is actually a custom design
Yeah.
of a type
It
of
is.
ride that
As it
Max is
stands,
selling.
according to RCDB, it is always subject to alteration. It's listed as a custom, but
Yeah.
it's such a convenient little block of space. I would think that a park could just decide that they wanted one just like it.
And a park that did decide they wanted just something like everyone else is Dollywood, who's opening
Yeah.
Dragonfly this year and their production model.
So
of Vekoma.
the Vekoma family invert, like we have a few of those in the U.S. A lot of them are not the super thrilling variety. We've got like the little roller skater ones, and then the Freedom Flyer in Orlando, which is the Kvaston from Brunelund clone. Which that was a custom too. That was not a production model. It was built to specifications laid out by Brunelund, and then the Fun Spot Parks of Orlando said that looks like a great ride. Let's put that in our park, and it just fits very snugly and
It's
very.
low-key my favorite
It
ride
looks
at that park.
so like it looks like it was designed for the Orlando park, even though we know that it wasn't. Dollywood is building the updated family suspended coaster concept that we've seen a few places in Europe. I believe one is at Farup Summerland in Denmark. I should remember because I've been there. But this was.
Are you talking about
way,
Orkanen?
Yeah.
Orkanen.
Yeah, Orkanen. Wow, there's 8 of these. I guess so. Yeah, we're on Roller Coaster Database, double checking. We're a little tired, so we just kind of need like our script of details to make sure that everything we're saying is actually accurate.
Orkanen is indeed in Denmark.
Yeah. Okay. Farup
Yes,
Summerland.
yeah.
Because I remember going to Farup Summerland, but that was a long time ago. So this is like at least the 8th iteration of this ride design being built, but the first time in the Western Hemisphere. So for people going to Dollywood who haven't been to any of the obscure little parks in Asia and Europe that have this clone, it will be a totally new experience. It has what looks like to me a great layout. Even though it's a production model, it's got an underground tunnel, which means that for all 8 parks that have contracted one so far, they all agreed to terraform a pretty impressive tunnel for the first drop of this ride, followed by an overbank turn right out of the tunnel, a very sharp-looking kind of egg-shaped overbank turn.
Almost an inversion, but not
Almost
quite.
an inversion, but they can't call it an inversion if they wanted to market it as a family ride. We're really excited. We think this is a perfect fit for Dollywood. Dollywood does not have a large inverted coaster like of any kind. They have Wild Eagle, which was kind of
Their family coaster.
their version of. If they were going to get an inverted coaster, they didn't. They got the wing coaster instead. So now their invert is this family Vekoma, which is the crown jewel of their Wildwood Grove area of the park, which just looks like a fabulous, beautiful daytime, nighttime, multimodal family attraction, kind of similar to their existing country fair area of the park. That's like a nice cluster of different kinds of rides for all ages, all thrill interests, all weathers, all seasons, that sort of thing. So this looks like a really great addition to Dollywood. The coaster being just such a pitch-perfect centerpiece. We always talk about the Herschend parks as being very in tune with what their park rosters need. It's easy as an enthusiast to sit back and say, well, this park needs a Giga coaster, and this park, needs a compressed air launch coaster, and this, that, and so. But we think parks like Dollywood and Silver City really have an acute idea of just what their collections need. Never at any point did I think that Dollywood's collection was ever incomplete. It started out very humbly. You build a custom aero looping coaster, you're not off to a bad start, and then a fabulous wooden coaster, and a mystery mine with dark ride elements, and then their first B&M, and it just has continued to grow so beautifully and so smoothly. And now they're building coaster number 9, and it just seems to fill, it just ticks all the boxes that might have been left thus far, and we can't wait to ride it. We got our season passes at Dollywood processed over the winter.
Yeah.
It was bitterly cold.
Nothing was open.
Almost.
but
I mean,
that's
we
why
got a couple
passes
rides on
till you come
Tennessee
back.
Tornado, and that's really all that matters. But it was, 30 degrees out. So we're excited to go back for some lightning rod, knock on wood. Hopefully it has a consistent 2019, or as close to consistent as it has ever had, because I think as the problems arise with that ride, they're getting better and better at solving them.
It's something that's not very consistent. And I'm going to cut to the last rides we're going to talk about are going to be in California. We're going to end where we started. Something that's not very consistent is the Six Flags coaster building for 2019 in California. In fact, Batman the Ride at Six Flags Discovery Kingdom is actually further along in its process than West Coast Racers is. They started pouring the footers for Batman, and the supports and track are in the parking lot at Discovery Kingdom. So they're ready to construct that ride. Should be pretty quick. It's just an SNS free spin coaster. They were actually waiting for approval. They announced the ride prior to getting approval to actually construct it, but they got approval and they're already on their way building it. So I expect that to actually be open on time. West Coast Racers, they just last week started pouring footers. So they're working on it now. Some of the supports have arrived. Some of the track is still on its way from Italy. Looks like it was not getting manufactured in the US, even though it's a US manufacturer. So that's why the ride is delayed, and there was a slight change to the ride layout as well, support structure-wise, which is why the ride is so delayed. People are still hopeful for a summer opening, and those summer lasts through, like September. But if anything, it's going to be late summer, I think, and I don't think we're going to see like summer break opening. There's just a lot to do. The area is pretty much completely bare still. We're still working on footers. So for anyone hoping to ride West Coast races this summer. I wouldn't be too confident just yet. You never know what Magic Mountain can pull off, but they aren't particularly well known to get their rides open right on time. Especially with this delay. It looked like a great coaster, but I'm expecting it to be open prior to Fright Fest, not prior to summer starting, even for international vacations.
Honestly, when I looked at the video, I wasn't too excited for it personally.
For West Coast racers?
You're not
Yeah,
alone.
but on the other hand, maybe I'm expecting too much from Magic Mountain because they already have those big iconic coasters, and then on the other hand, this is a nice addition to the lineup. Then, so it's a bit mixed.
Yeah, I think that Magic Mountain really wanted to create something that's considered family friendly, that isn't necessarily a super thrill ride. And they kind of learned with Twisted Colossus that they build a racing coaster that they can't race. Then they learned with Full Throttle they built a great launch coaster that was way too short. So I really feel like they went back to the drawing table or whatever you call that, and they decided to just combine those two elements, make a racing coaster that would launch and would actually race. And I think that's kind of how West Coast races came along. And I think the project was pushed because of all the development right next to that area of the park, like they're building 2,000 new homes. So I think this project was perhaps a tiny bit rushed, just to make sure they have the roller coaster standing before the houses are standing. So I think for all the circumstances, I think it's a good fit for the park. I do think so. I mean, yeah, it's not as grand as Tatsu or X2, but I do think it's a good fit.
You said to end with this one, but I think we're forgetting one.
We're forgetting one. You tell me.
Steel Curtain.
Oh,
yeah.
Steel Curtain, of course. About that ride.
We're excited for Steel Curtain. It's
We're
just,
really, I think it's one of the better looking modern looping coasters. I almost
except
thought
for
it would have
it's
been.
literally physically ugly.
It is a very hard
Yeah,
to look
those-
at.
The track layout looks great. The look, like the actual aesthetic of the ride, is pure vomit. But you know what?
Pure vomit.
Whatever it takes to get a sponsorship to fund the ride, whatever. I think the ride's gonna be great.
Yeah, it's going to do a lot of really interesting things. That first drop looks crazy. It's got that with that like bridge-looking inversion. Like that just went up recently. There were some pictures of that online. It looks pretty crazy. Sorry, I'm really tired of repeating myself.
But what I'm excited for in the ride is that, unlike most loopers, it's able to pack in how many versions? 10 inversions?
Nine.
9 versions?
9.
There you go. It's able to pack in 9 inversions, but none of them are like a repetition of the prior version on the ride.
Exactly.
So that's the great thing about modern loopers is that they are kind of like edgy, but they manage to still really stand out. It's not like a B&M where every element is often the same. It's just like there are some brand new elements that we've never seen before on the ride. Looks like the pacing is really well the entire time. I'm actually really excited for the ride. Yeah.
I think that's the advantage that it's SNS building it, because like you said, we already know pretty much the inversions of other manufacturers, but this one I feel like they wanted to reinvent themselves. And by the way, about the sponsorship, so I'm imagining that it's a football team that's sponsoring the ride, right?
Correct.
How big are they?
The Steelers, I think, are pretty big. I'm not a football fan.
Yeah.
I just moved here.
This is the wrong people here.
Steelers are the largest, arguably the largest football. I guess, the Patriots are probably the largest football
Well,
franchise.
I guess they're
in
one of the
NFL.
largest franchises in the
They gotta
US.
be at least the top 3 football franchises in the NFL.
Okay. And how
So
about
it's a big
West
deal,
Coast?
especially for the locals.
And the West Coast, the Rams.
Yeah.
Rams, LA Rams.
LA
yeah.
Rams, and
I guess we got the
Raiders?
Seahawks as West Coast.
Seahawks, 49ers.
49ers.
You're
Sorry,
asking the
football
wrong
fans
people.
out there.
Yeah, we're just
We're
talking
slaughtering
about,
it,
we're
we're
talking
sorry.
about finances here. We're talking about franchises, stuff that comes up first when you pull a Google search.
So yeah, I'm excited for Steel Curtain. Totally.
Nice.
And before we completely wrap up this episode, and we've probably rambled on about all these coasters for quite a bit now, we do have several awesome new updates and reports on the website, including a look at some of the construction going on at Disneyland Paris, Six Flags Magic Mountain, Universal Studios Hollywood, Knott's Berry Farm, and something that Universal just announced 2 days ago, I believe, is the Dark Arts at Hogwarts Castle, which is a new nighttime show featuring Dementors, Voldemort,
The castle projection.
Death Eaters. It's pretty much like another castle projection show. It's going to be coming to Universal Studios Hollywood next month, or this month even. And it's going to come to Universal Orlando Resort a little bit later on, presumably after they have opened.
Yeah, I think it's like
The new
select
roller
nights at
coaster.
Hollywood, April and May.
April and May, there you go.
And then we'll continue. The press release talked all about it, but it didn't actually say when it comes to Orlando. And I think that's partially because of the Hagrid coaster, and they probably don't want the two to overlap
Too much.
too much. So who knows? If Hagrid gets delayed, they'll probably be like, "Oh, here's the nighttime show. Here's a distraction."
Look over here!
If Hagrid opens on time,
Yeah, please
the
look at the
nighttime
castle,
show,
not the new coaster.
Yeah, if Hagrid opens on time, it'll we'll probably see the nighttime show come after.
And if you are
I
interested in
guess.
the new Gwazi stuff, no, literally today, when we're recording this, a couple hours ago, we were at Busch Gardens Tampa learning all the news. We launched all the details on our website. It is the world's fastest and steepest hybrid coaster and America's tallest. And if you need
Or
some
the
more
fastest.
details, it is all located on thecoasterkings.com along with other content. And
Alrighty.
that will be the episode.
Hooray!
All right, that wraps it up.
That wraps it up. We'll
Let's go
see
to
you
bed.
guys soon in episode 3.
All right.
And we thank you for listening. Have a good night.
Bye.
Adios.
Bye bye.